Try to do it. I just better not be around. What the fuck, baby? You better pull it.
In the vibrant era of the 1960s, People's Park, owned by the University of California, Berkeley, blossomed into a symbol of community, activism, and freedom. What once stood as an open space for all, a place of peaceful resistance and gathering, now faces an uncertain fate.
Breaking news. UC Berkeley started to close off People's Park construction site where the university plans to build housing for students and low-income residents. In the midst of that, protests erupted and police showed up in riot gear to move them away from the park.
People's Park is under attack! What do we do? Stand up like that! People's Park!
UC wants to say more about education for climate change, climate justice, but then they're destroying this public space.
The history of the park is involved with the history of the period of the 60s. So it was, again, the anti-war movement, the civil rights movement, the free speech movement, all these things were happening at the time. And the counterculture also. So that all went into the history of People's Park. And it's meant something to people because people were involved in creating it. So I've talked to people that were very saddened when they saw a tree came down and they said, you know, I planted that tree, or my children and I planted that tree.
UC Berkeley's current plan would build student housing with over 1,000 new beds. It also entails permanent supportive housing for either very low-income people and the formerly unhoused. And then most of the site will be left as open space where there will be a memorabilia of the park.
People's Park! People's Park! People's Park! People's Park!
Complicating matters further, the university is currently involved in a legal battle, facing a lawsuit in the California Supreme Court over the development plans on the park. This has caused a delay in construction.
And the university, when it tried to close the park in August 2022, invested a great deal of money in a fence that security experts thought would be sufficient. It was destroyed by opponents of the project. It was part of the $1 million in vandalism damage that was done by them. And so this student housing crisis is such as that our commitment is unwavering. And we realized we had to find a way to close this park or we will never get this project built. And we were assured that the containers, unlike the fence we tried in 2022, would be a much sturdier perimeter and one that would be all but impossible to knock down.
People's Park has a deep connection to residents, some of who are against the development on the park.
It hurts, burns my heart to see those containers around that park, because that park means a lot to many people. For the university to come up with a sinister idea to put those containers around that park. Whoever thought of that should be locked up in jail. All their family members should be locked up too, along with them. Because that's unheard of in America.
The university runs 3 nuclear laboratories. The city runs parks all over the city. If they wanted a clean park, they would have had a clean park. As it turns out, they didn't want a clean park. They wanted an unsafe park so they could warn you, the students, not to go here. So when it came down to taking the park, you wouldn't be on our side.
Regardless of the opposition, 80% of students do support the university's housing plan.
Yeah, so I wasn't here in the 90s. I came here in 2022, and so I've only known the park as a space that was pretty much an encampment for unhoused people to stay, and there were tents, and there wasn't like a lot of greenery or foliage or things that we might associate with a park. I have seen pictures and talked to people who claim the park and were part of kind of like the establishment of the park in the 1960s, as well as people who were here and enjoyed the park in the 1990s and early 2000s as like a vibrant public space. What they've shared with me and what I've seen from them is not the way I experienced the park and is not the way that I saw the park.
I definitely think that we all know there's a lack of student housing. I've met a lot of people, like while I was looking for apartments, who said that there was like a time where they were unhoused themselves, and they like had to like live with their friends and things like that. So I think there's a lot of problems in that sense for students themselves, and also for like, obviously there's so many unhoused people, like homeless people around Berkeley. So I think from what I've heard, the university is planning to accommodate both sides.
As some members of the community rally to save their historical park, the question lingers: can they preserve the past while paving way for the future? The battle for this cherished space continues.
Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Every time we stop, hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's growing.